So embarrassing. Imagine thinking I'd take his last name. She snorted after I proposed in front of her family. I said, fair enough, and left the restaurant. Packed all my things while she was still out with them. She came home to an empty apartment and a text. Imagine thinking I'd keep yours. A week later, she showed up at my new place shaking. I, 29, male, got down on one knee in front of her entire family. Before I could finish the question, she snorted and said, so embarrassing. Imagine thinking I'd take his last name. The table went silent. I stood up, brushed off my pants, and said 2 words, fair enough. Then I walked out of the restaurant. While she stayed finishing dinner with her family, I went home and packed everything I owned. She came back hours later to an empty apartment and a text message that mirrored her exact words. Imagine thinking I'd keep yours. A week of silence passed. Then she showed up at my new place, shaking, mascara streaked down her face. She said it was a joke, that she panicked, that she loved me. I told her through the door that some jokes cost everything. She kept knocking for 20 minutes. I never turned the handle. I had been with Maya, 27, for 2 years and 8 months. We met at a marketing conference in Denver. She worked in brand strategy. I worked in digital analytics. Our first conversation lasted 3 hours over airport coffee while both our flights got delayed. 6 months later, she moved into my apartment in Chicago. The lease was under my name. She transferred $800 a month for her half. We had routines. Sunday farmer's market. Wednesday Thai takeout. Friday movie night on the couch with her feet in my lap. Her family lived in the suburbs, 20 minutes west. Her parents, Richard and Susan. Her older brother, Kyle. Her younger sister, Emma. They invited us over every other weekend. I showed up with wine or dessert. Her dad talked about the Bears. Her mom asked when we'd get married. Maya would laugh and change the subject. I thought she was private about those things. I thought wrong. Looking back now, there were signs. Small things I dismissed as personality quirks or modern independence. In our first year, Maya introduced me to her friends as the guy I'm seeing, even after we'd been exclusive for 9 months. When I brought it up, she said labels felt constraining. I accepted that. I thought it was just her style. At family dinners, when Susan would make comments about grandchildren or wedding bells, Maya would physically tense beside me. Her shoulders would go rigid. She'd change the subject aggressively, sometimes cutting her mother off mid-sentence. Richard would shoot her a look. Susan would go quiet. I'd squeeze Maya's hand under the table and tell myself she just didn't like pressure, that she'd come around when she was ready. By our second year, the comments got sharper. We were at her friend Jessica's engagement party. Someone asked if we were next. Maya laughed and said, God, I hope not. Marriage is just an outdated contract. Everyone went awkward and quiet. I played it off as a joke. But on the drive home, I asked her if she meant it. She said, I don't know. Maybe. Does it matter? I said it mattered to me. She said we didn't need to figure it out right now. I dropped it. I shouldn't have. The idea for the proposal came in late September. We were walking through Lincoln Park. The trees were turning orange. She stopped in front of a jewelry store window and pointed at a ring. Oval-cut diamond. White gold band. Simple. Classic. She said, if someone ever proposed to me, that's the one I'd want. I memorized the style. 2 weeks later, I went back to that store. The ring cost $4,800. I paid half up front and set up a payment plan for the rest. The jeweler, an older woman named Diane, asked if I was nervous. I said no. I said I was sure. She smiled and said, then she's lucky. I believed that. I walked out of the store with the ring in a navy velvet box. I hid it in my sock drawer under the winter wool socks she never touched. For 3 weeks, I checked it every morning to make sure it was still there. For 3 weeks, I planned the perfect moment. I researched proposal ideas online. I watched YouTube videos. I read articles about what women wanted. Grand gestures, family involvement, public declarations of love. I thought Maya would want that too. I thought including her family would show her how serious I was. How committed. How ready for forever. I was wrong about all of it. Her favorite restaurant was a French bistro called Colette on Clark Street. White tablecloths, candles and glass holders. A piano player on weekends. She'd been talking about wanting to go back there since her birthday in July. I called the manager, a man named Antoine, and explained what I wanted to do. He reserved the corner table near the window, the one she always pointed at. He said he'd make sure the lighting was soft and the champagne was chilled. I confirmed the reservation 3 times. Then I called her parents. I asked Richard if I could come over and talk to him and Susan privately. He sounded surprised. He said, "Of course, come by Thursday evening." I drove out to their house in Naperville. I sat at their kitchen table with my hands folded. I told them I wanted to marry Maya. I told them I had the ring. I told them I wanted their blessing. Susan cried. Richard shook my hand and said, "You've been good to her. You have our blessing." I felt relieved. I felt confident. I told them about the reservation at Colette. I invited them to be there. I invited Kyle and Emma too. I wanted her whole family to witness it. I wanted it to be perfect. Susan hugged me at the door and said, "She's going to say yes. I know she will." I drove home believing her. I should have paid more attention to the small things. The way Maya had started correcting me in front of her friends. The way she rolled her eyes when I suggested we start looking at houses. The way she said, "I don't know if I see myself as a wife," during a conversation about her co-worker's engagement. I filed those moments away as nerves, as her being cautious, as her needing time. I didn't see them as warnings. The reservation was set for Saturday, November 4th at 7 p.m. I told Maya we were going to Colette for a nice dinner. She asked if it was a special occasion. I said, "Do we need one?" She smiled and said no. She spent 2 hours getting ready. Black dress, heels, hair curled, red lipstick. She looked beautiful. I wore a charcoal suit, white shirt, no tie. The ring was in my jacket pocket. I could feel the weight of it every time I moved. We took an Uber to the restaurant. She talked about a project at work, a rebrand for a fitness company. She was excited about the direction. I nodded and listened. I was only half there. The other half of me was rehearsing what I'd say. When we walked into Colette, Antoine greeted us at the door. He smiled and led us to the corner table, the one by the window. Maya's face lit up. She said, "You remembered." I said, "Of course." We sat down. She ordered a glass of Pinot Noir. I ordered sparkling water. I needed to stay clear. The restaurant was warm. Soft jazz played in the background. Couples talked in low voices around us. Everything felt intimate. Perfect. Exactly how I'd imagined it. 10 minutes later, her family arrived. Richard, Susan, Kyle, and Emma. Maya looked confused. She set her wine glass down. She said, "What are you guys doing here?" Susan said, "We were invited." Maya looked at me. Her eyes narrowed slightly. I smiled and said, "I thought it'd be nice to have everyone together." She blinked. Her jaw tightened for a second. Then she smiled and said, "Okay, sure." But the smile didn't reach her eyes. She picked up her wine and drank half of it in one sip. Richard sat at the head of the table. Susan next to him. Kyle and Emma filled in the other chairs. Antoine brought more menus. More wine. The table settled. Dinner started normally. Appetizers came. Escargot. Baked brie. Conversation flowed. Richard asked about my work. I told him about a new analytics platform we were implementing. Emma talked about her college classes. Psychology major. Graduating in May. Kyle mentioned a trip he was planning to Nashville. Music festival. 3 days. Maya was quiet. She sipped her wine. She checked her phone twice. I reached across the table and took her hand. I said, "You okay?" She nodded. She said, "Yeah, just surprised." I squeezed her hand. I thought the surprise would make it better. I thought having her family there would make her feel loved. I was reading the room wrong. I was reading her wrong. After the main course, I excused myself to the restroom. I didn't actually go. I stood in the hallway near the kitchen and texted Antoine. I said, "Now." He gave me a thumbs up. I walked back to the table. The piano player had started a soft melody. Something classical. Something romantic. I stood next to Maya's chair. She looked up at me. Her eyebrows raised. I reached into my pocket. I pulled out the navy velvet box. The table went silent. Richard leaned forward. Susan's hand went to her mouth. Emma smiled. Kyle straightened in his chair. I got down on one knee. The restaurant seemed to quiet around us. Other diners turned to look. I opened the box. The diamond caught the candlelight. It sparkled. It was perfect. Maya stared at it. Her face didn't change. No smile. No tears. No emotion. Just blank. I started to speak. I said, "Maya, these past 2 years have been the best of my life. You're smart, beautiful, and you challenge me every day. I can't imagine my future without you in it. I want to build a life together. I want to wake up next to you for the rest of my..." She snorted. It was loud, sharp, unmistakable. Then she said, "So embarrassing. Imagine thinking I'd take his last name." Her voice carried across the table, across the restaurant. The piano stopped. People at nearby tables turned to stare. I froze. The ring was still in my hand. Her family stared at her. Susan's mouth was open. Her face had gone pale. Richard's face went red. His hands gripped the edge of the table. Emma looked down at her plate. Her shoulders hunched. Kyle cleared his throat and said, "Maya, what the hell?" She waved her hand dismissively. She said, "Come on. It's 2024. Nobody does this anymore. It's archaic." I stayed on one knee for 3 more seconds. The box was still open, the diamonds still glittering. Then I stood up. I closed the box. I put it back in my pocket. I looked at her. Her eyes were wide now, like she realized what she'd just done, like she wanted to take it back. But it was too late. I said 2 words. "Fair enough." My voice was calm, flat. No anger, no hurt, just done. I pulled my wallet out of my back pocket. I took out $300 in cash. I placed it on the table next to my untouched wine glass. I looked at Richard and Susan. I said, "Dinner's on me. Enjoy the rest of your evening." Then I walked out. I didn't look back. I didn't wait for her to call my name. I heard someone say, "Wait," but I kept moving. I heard Maya's voice rise behind me, trying to explain, trying to spin it. I pushed through the front door of Colette. The cold November air hit my face. I stood on the sidewalk and pulled out my phone. I ordered an Uber. It said 4 minutes away. I waited. My hands were steady. My breathing was calm. I felt nothing. I felt everything. I felt free. Update 1: The Uber dropped me off at my apartment at 8:47 p.m. I walked inside. The lights were off. The space felt hollow already. I didn't sit down. I didn't think. I went straight to the bedroom. I opened my closet. I pulled out the 2 large duffel bags I used for weekend trips. I started packing. Clothes first. Jeans, sweaters, jackets, socks, underwear. I moved fast. Methodical. I grabbed my toiletries from the bathroom. Toothbrush, razor, deodorant, cologne, shampoo, the expensive face wash I'd been using for 3 years. I took my laptop from the desk in the living room. My chargers, my external hard drive with all my work files backed up, my books from the shelf, the Hemingway collection, the business strategy books, the thriller novels I read before bed. I left hers. Romance novels, self-help books, cookbooks she never used. I took my kitchen stuff. The knife set my mom gave me when I moved to Chicago. The cast iron skillet I'd had since college. My coffee maker. The French press. The espresso cups. I left the dishes she'd brought when she moved in. White plates with blue trim. Mismatched mugs from her college years. I took my framed photos of my family from the wall. My parents at their 30th anniversary. My sister's wedding. My nephew's first birthday. I left the ones of us together. Laughing at a concert. Kissing on a beach in Florida. Sitting on the couch with her cat. I didn't want to see her face. I didn't want the memories. I moved through the apartment like I was erasing myself. Like I was never there. At 9:32 p.m., I sat on the couch with my bags by the door. I pulled out my phone. I opened my text thread with Maya. The last message was from that morning. She'd sent a photo of her coffee with a heart emoji. I'd replied with a heart back. That felt like a lifetime ago now. I stared at the screen. Then I typed, "Imagine thinking I'd keep yours." I hit send. I didn't add anything else. No explanation. No goodbye. No, "I'm leaving," or "we're done." Just those 6 words mirroring hers. The message delivered. 2 gray check marks turned blue. Read at 9:33 p.m. I watched the typing bubbles appear, then disappear, then appear again. I put my phone in my pocket before she could respond. I called my friend Jason. He lived 15 minutes away. I said, "I need a place to crash tonight." He said, "What happened?" I said, "I'll explain later. Can you come get me?" He said yes. No questions. No hesitation. 20 minutes later, his truck pulled up outside. I loaded my bags into the back. I walked back inside one last time. I left my key on the kitchen counter, right next to the coffee maker I'd left behind because she used it every morning. I left the ring in its box next to the key. I didn't leave a note. I locked the door from the inside and pulled it shut behind me. Jason didn't ask questions on the drive. He just said, "You can stay as long as you need." I nodded. I stared out the window. The city lights blurred past. Street lamps. Headlights. Neon signs. I felt nothing. I felt everything. I felt free. Update 2: Maya got home at 10:47 p.m. I know because my phone started ringing at 10:51. I didn't answer. She called again at 10:53, then 10:55, then 10:58. Then she started texting. The first one said, "Where are you?" The second one said, "Are you serious right now?" The third one said, "Please call me." The fourth one said, "This isn't funny." I put my phone on silent. I turned it face down on Jason's coffee table. Jason offered me a beer. I took it. He said, "You want to talk?" I said, "Not yet." He nodded. We sat in his living room and watched basketball highlights on mute. The Bulls were playing the Celtics. The score didn't matter. The game didn't matter. My phone lit up every few minutes. More calls. More texts. I didn't look. At 11:34, she sent a photo. I saw the notification preview before the screen went dark. It was the empty apartment. I picked up my phone. I opened it. The couch with no throw pillows. The wall with no photos. The kitchen counter with just the key and the ring box sitting there like abandoned artifacts. She wrote, "You can't be serious." Then, "Where did you take everything?" Then, "You're acting insane." I didn't respond. At midnight, she called 14 times in a row. I let every single one go to voicemail. The phone buzzed and buzzed. Jason glanced at it, but didn't say anything. I didn't listen to the voicemails. I deleted them without playing them. At 12:47 a.m., she sent a voice memo, 2 minutes and 36 seconds long. I played it on low volume. Her voice was shaking. She said, "I messed up. I know I messed up. But you can't just leave like this. We've been together for almost 3 years. You can't throw that away because I made one stupid comment." I panicked. I got scared. "But that doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean I don't want to be with you. Please, please call me back. We can talk about this. We can fix this. Just please don't shut me out." Her voice cracked at the end. I could hear her crying. I deleted it. I turned off my phone completely. Jason looked at me. He said, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You sure?" I nodded. He said, "All right. Guest room's ready whenever you want to crash." I said thanks. I sat there for another hour, staring at the TV, not watching, not thinking, just existing. At 2 a.m., I went to the guest room. I lay down on the bed. I stared at the ceiling. I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I didn't feel anything. I just waited for morning. The next morning, Jason made coffee. He sat across from me at his kitchen table. He said, "You want to tell me what happened?" I told him. The proposal. Her response. The walkout. The packing. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. He said, "She humiliated you in front of her family." I nodded. He said, "And now she wants you to just come back?" I nodded again. He shook his head. He said, "Good. Don't." I spent the next 2 days at Jason's place. I called my landlord. I explained the situation without details. I said I needed to break the lease early. He said there'd be a fee. 2 months' rent. $3,400. I said fine. I asked if Maya was on the lease. He checked. He said no. Just my name. Only my name. I told him I wanted her removed from the apartment by the end of the month. He said he'd send an official notice. I thanked him. Then I called a moving company. I scheduled them to go to the apartment on Wednesday at noon when I knew Maya would be at work. I gave them a list of everything that was mine. The couch, the TV, the desk, the bed frame, the dining table, the bookshelf, the lamp, the nightstands, everything I'd paid for, everything I'd owned before she moved in. I told them to leave her stuff in the living room. They said it'd cost $850. I paid over the phone with my credit card. On Wednesday at 12:15, the movers sent me a photo. The apartment was split in half. My furniture on the truck. Her things piled in the corner like a garage sale. I forwarded the photo to Maya. No message. Just the picture. She called immediately. I didn't answer. She sent a text. "You took everything?" I replied, "Just what was mine." She wrote, "This is cruel." I didn't respond. Update 3. Her family started reaching out on Monday morning. Susan called first. I answered because I liked Susan. She deserved an explanation. She said, "I'm so sorry." What she said was unacceptable. Her voice cracked. She was crying. She said, "Richard and I are furious with her. We didn't raise her to act like that. We didn't raise her to be cruel." I said, "I appreciate that, Susan. But it's done." She said, "Can we talk? Just the 3 of us." I said no. I said I needed space. She understood. She said, "For what it's worth, you would have been a wonderful son-in-law. We were excited. We were ready to welcome you into the family officially." I thanked her. I hung up. I sat there for a minute, staring at my phone, feeling something close to sadness, but not quite. 10 minutes later, Emma texted. She said, "Kyle and I are on your side. What she did was cruel. I'm sorry you had to go through that. You didn't deserve that. Nobody deserves that." I appreciated Emma. She was 22 and had more emotional intelligence than her older sister. I texted back, "Thank you. That means a lot." Kyle sent a message an hour later. He said, "Dude, I don't know what to say. That was brutal. If you need anything, let me know. Seriously, anything." I replied, "I'm good. Thanks." Richard didn't reach out. I assumed Susan told him I needed space. Or maybe he didn't know what to say. Maybe he was ashamed. Either way, I didn't hear from him. Maya's texts continued. By Tuesday, they'd shifted from apologetic to angry. She wrote, "You're being childish. Running away doesn't solve anything." Then, "I can't believe you're throwing away everything we built over one bad moment." Then, "You're acting like I cheated on you." I made a joke. Get over it. I didn't respond to any of them. I saved them all. Screenshot after screenshot. Every text. Every insult. Every accusation. On Wednesday, after the movers cleared out my stuff, she sent 15 texts in 10 minutes. They ranged from, "How could you take everything?" to "You're a coward," to "I never loved you anyway." That last one almost made me laugh. I screenshotted all of them. I saved them in a folder labeled evidence. Not because I thought I'd need them legally, but because I wanted a record of who she really was when things didn't go her way. When the mask slipped. When the real Maya came out. On Thursday, mutual friends started weighing in. Jessica, a friend from Maya's work, texted me. She said, "Maya told me what happened. I just want to say I think you're overreacting. She was nervous. She made a mistake. You're throwing away a good thing over one comment." I blocked her number immediately. Another friend, Mark, sent a message. "Hey man, heard about the proposal. That's rough, but maybe give her another chance. She's really torn up. She's been crying at work. She can barely function." I replied, "She had her chance. At the restaurant. In front of everyone." He didn't respond. I realized quickly that Maya was spinning the story, making herself the victim, saying I abandoned her over nothing, saying I was cruel and vindictive, saying I overreacted. I didn't care. I knew the truth. Her family knew the truth. That was enough. By Friday, her voicemails had turned desperate again. One said, "I know you're hurt. I know I embarrassed you. But please, we can fix this. I'll do anything. Therapy, couples counseling, whatever you want. Just please talk to me." Another said, "I talked to a therapist. She said I have commitment issues. She said I sabotage good things because I'm afraid of getting hurt. I'm working on it. I'm really working on it. Please just talk to me." I didn't listen to the rest. I forwarded all her messages to a separate email account. I labeled it Maya Archive. Then I blocked her number completely. I blocked her on social media. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. I removed her from my Netflix account, my Spotify family plan, my Amazon Prime. I changed my passwords. I updated my emergency contacts. I erased her digitally the same way I erased her physically. It felt clean, final, necessary. On Saturday morning, exactly 1 week after the proposal, I signed a lease for a new apartment in Wicker Park. 1 bedroom, hardwood floors, exposed brick, big windows facing south. It was smaller than the old place, but it was mine. Completely mine. No shared lease. No splitting bills. No compromise on furniture. I moved in that afternoon. Jason helped me set up. We assembled the bed frame, hung the TV on the wall, connected the cable box, ordered pizza from the place down the block. He cracked open a beer and handed me one. He said, "New chapter, man." I nodded. I said, "New chapter." It was Sunday evening, 7 days after the proposal. I was unpacking the last box in my new kitchen. Wine glasses, coffee mugs, a set of steak knives I'd bought at Target earlier that day. I heard a knock at the door. 3 rapid taps. Then silence. Then 3 more. I paused. I set down the mug in my hand. I wasn't expecting anyone. Jason had left an hour ago. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. It was Maya. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. No makeup. Puffy eyes. Red nose. She'd been crying. She was wearing a gray hoodie and black leggings. She looked small, shaken, broken. She knocked again. Louder this time. She said, "I know you're in there. Please. I just want to talk." I didn't move. I stood 2 feet from the door and watched her through the peephole. She knocked again. She said, "Please." I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Her voice cracked. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her hoodie. Mascara smeared across her cheek. She said, "It was a joke." I panicked. I didn't mean it. I swear I didn't mean it. I stayed silent. I watched her. She kept talking. She said, "I've been a mess all week. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I keep thinking about what I said. About your face when you stood up. I was scared. I was scared of forever. But I'm not anymore. I'm ready now. I love you. I want to marry you. Please just open the door." I stepped closer. My hand hovered over the deadbolt. I could hear her breathing on the other side. Ragged. Uneven. Then I stopped. I thought about the restaurant. The snort. The way she dismissed me in front of her family. The way her words echoed across the room. The way strangers turned to look. The way the piano stopped. The way she didn't chase me out the door. She stayed. She stayed and finished her wine while I drove home alone. While I packed my life into bags. While I erased myself from the apartment we shared. I thought about her texts. The anger. The insults. The way she called me a coward. The way she said she never loved me anyway. The way she tried to make me the villain. I lowered my hand. I leaned close to the door and said, "Some jokes cost everything." My voice was calm. Cold. She went quiet. I could picture her face. The confusion. The desperation. Then she said, "What?" I said, "You heard me." She said, "Please don't do this. I made a mistake. One mistake. Don't throw us away because of that." I said, "You threw us away. At Colette. In front of everyone. I just cleaned up the mess." She started crying harder. I could hear it through the door. She said, "I'll change. I'll do therapy. I'll work on my issues. I'll be better. I promise I'll be better. Just give me another chance." I said, "I gave you a chance. On one knee. With a ring. In front of your family. You laughed." She said, "I didn't laugh." I said, "You snorted." Silence. Long and heavy. Then she knocked again. Softer this time. Almost pleading. She said, "Please. Please open the door. Let me see you. Let me explain." I didn't respond. I walked back to the kitchen. I kept unpacking. She stayed for 20 minutes. Knocking every few minutes. Talking through the door. Apologizing. Begging. Promising things she couldn't deliver. I heard all of it. I ignored all of it. I put away the wine glasses. I arranged the coffee mugs. I lined up the steak knives in the drawer. At 7:43 p.m., the knocking stopped. I walked back to the peephole. She was sitting on the floor in the hallway with her back against the wall. Her head was in her hands. Her shoulders shook. She was sobbing. She stayed there for 5 more minutes. Then she stood up. She wiped her face with both hands. She looked at the door one last time. She said quietly, almost a whisper, "I love you." Then she walked away. I heard her footsteps fade down the hall. I heard the stairwell door open and close. The echo of it traveled through the building. I stood at the door for another minute, making sure she was really gone. Then I locked the deadbolt. I put the chain on. I went back to the kitchen. I finished unpacking the wine glasses. I poured myself a drink. I sat on my new couch in my new apartment. I turned on the TV. I didn't think about her. I didn't feel guilty. I felt peace. It's been 3 months since that night. Since the proposal. Since the walkout. Since the knock on my door. I haven't seen Maya since. I haven't heard from her either. I assume she finally accepted it was over. Or maybe she just moved on. Maybe she found someone else who didn't mind being humiliated in public. Someone who didn't have standards. Someone who would take her back no matter what she said or did. I don't know. I don't check. I blocked her everywhere. I deleted photos. I threw out anything that reminded me of her. A coffee mug she bought me from a trip to Portland. A t-shirt she left at my place that still smelled like her perfume. A book she gave me for my birthday with an inscription on the inside cover. I didn't keep any of it. I didn't want the weight. I didn't want the memories hanging over me like ghosts. The new apartment feels like mine now. I painted the bedroom a deep blue. Sherwin-Williams navel. I bought a leather couch. Brown. Worn in. Comfortable. I hung art I actually like. Music posters from concerts I went to in college. A vintage map of Chicago. A black and white photo of the skyline at sunset. My space. My choices. No compromises. No conversations about whether the couch should be gray or beige. No debates about throw pillows. Just me. Just what I want. Jason comes over most Fridays. We order takeout. Watch games. Talk about work. About life. About everything except her. He never brings her up. I appreciate that. He knows it's a closed chapter. A dead subject. One night in December, He asked if I regretted it. Walking out. Ending things so definitively. I said no. I said I regretted not seeing the signs earlier. I regretted wasting almost 3 years on someone who couldn't respect me enough to control herself for 30 seconds. But I didn't regret leaving. He nodded. He said, "Good." We went back to watching the game. I started seeing someone new in January. Her name is Rachel. She's a graphic designer. We met at a New Year's party at Jason's place. She was funny, direct, confident. She told me she hated small talk and asked if I wanted to skip to the interesting questions. I laughed. I said yes. We talked for 2 hours. About work. About travel. About what we wanted from life. When I told her about Maya and the proposal, she listened without interrupting. Then she said, "That's brutal. But you handled it right. You respected yourself. Most people don't have the guts to walk away when they should." I like that. She didn't pity me. She didn't try to fix me. She didn't tell me I overreacted or that I should give Maya another chance. She just understood. We've been taking things slow. No pressure. No timelines. No talk of rings or last names or forever. Just dinner. Movies. Walks by the lake. Coffee on Sunday mornings. It feels easy. It feels right. It feels like what a relationship should feel like. No games. No tests. No public humiliation disguised as jokes. The ring is still in my sock drawer. I haven't looked at it since I left it on the counter that night. Sometimes I think about selling it, getting the money back, putting it towards something useful, a new laptop, a weekend trip, a down payment on a car, anything but a reminder of the worst night of my life. But I haven't done it yet. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. It doesn't matter. It's just a ring. It doesn't define me. It doesn't haunt me. It's just there, sitting in a velvet box under wool socks. An expensive piece of metal and stone that means nothing anymore. Susan texted me in February. She said, "I hope you're doing well. We miss you. You deserved better than what happened. I'm sorry we couldn't give you that. I'm sorry she couldn't give you that. I appreciated it." I texted back, "Thank you, Susan. I'm doing well. I hope you're all okay too." She replied with a heart emoji. That was the end of it. I don't hold any grudges against her family. They weren't the ones who humiliated me. They were just witnesses. Collateral damage. I think they were embarrassed too. Ashamed of what their daughter did. I ran into Kyle at a coffee shop last week. He was with a girl I didn't recognize. Blonde. Pretty. She was laughing at something he said. He saw me and waved. We talked for a few minutes. Small talk. Work. Weather. The Bulls' playoff chances. He didn't mention Maya. I didn't ask. Before he left, he said, "For what it's worth, you handled that whole thing with a lot of class." I would have lost it. I nodded. I said, "Thanks." He walked away with his girlfriend. I finished my coffee. I didn't think about it again. I didn't wonder how Maya was doing. I didn't feel curious or nostalgic or sad. I felt nothing. And that felt right. I've learned something in these 3 months. Silence is the loudest response. Walking away is the strongest move. And sometimes, the best revenge is just living well. Living better. Living without the weight of someone who doesn't respect you. I don't need closure from Maya. I don't need an apology. I don't need her to understand what she took from me that night. I already know. And I already moved on. Some people spend years trying to fix what's broken, trying to tape together shattered glass and pretend it's whole. I spent one night packing my bags. One night making a choice. One night deciding that I was worth more than a snort and a dismissive comment. She thought I'd stay. She thought I'd forgive. She thought humiliating me was just a joke. A moment. A blip. Something we'd laugh about years later. She was wrong. I'm not the guy who gets down on one knee twice. I'm not the guy who begs for a second chance after being dismissed in front of a crowd. I'm not the guy who accepts breadcrumbs and calls it love. I'm the guy who knows his worth. And my worth is not measured by someone who snorts at the idea of my last name. The restaurant is still there. Colette on Clark Street. I walked past it last month. The lights were on. The piano was playing. Couples sat at the corner table. The one where I knelt. The one where everything ended. I didn't stop. I didn't feel anything. No anger. No sadness. No bitterness. It's just a place. It's not a scar. It's not a memory. It's just where something ended. And something better began. I kept walking. I had somewhere to be. Rachel was waiting for me at a bar 3 blocks away. We were meeting her friends. Normal couple things. Easy things. Things that don't require armor or defense mechanisms or constant vigilance. I got there 10 minutes later. She smiled when she saw me. She stood up and kissed my cheek. She said, "You're late." I said sorry. Got caught up. She said, it's fine. Come meet everyone. I did. I sat down. I ordered a drink. I laughed at jokes. I told stories. I existed in a space where I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop, where I wasn't bracing for humiliation, where I was just a person enjoying a night out. That's what I have now. That's what walking away gave me. Peace. Dignity. A future that doesn't include someone who thinks public cruelty is a personality trait. Maya showed up at my door shaking, crying, begging. I told her some jokes cost everything. I meant it. And 3 months later, I still mean it.